Rocio. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for
Um,
having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you. You are a violinist, a string arranger, a songwriter, and also a professor at Cal Lutheran University teaching mariachi. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, my family, I come from a family of field workers, and they used to pick strawberries in the fields in Oxnard, and my grandpa also worked at the packing house in Oxnard, packing lemons. So music was something that was really foreign to our family because we couldn't afford lessons.
Mhm.
But my mom always loved music and wanted me to play. So she went to school later in life. I think, about 12, 11 or 12, and she got her BA and became a teacher. And then they had enough money to be able to afford lessons. So she asked if, she wanted me to play violin, and I just kind of went along with it. Started taking lessons at a music store in Oxnard. And I remember the turning point for me was I saw a video. It was the Tchaikovsky competition. And I remember just being blown away by the level of musicianship and just seeing how intense something like that could be. And it just decided that that was what I wanted to do with my life. And I think I was probably about 13 or 14 at that age. And I just decided this is what I want to do.
So were you, after that, you made that decision, did you begin attending the Colburn school or were you
Well,
already?
I had a teacher in Camarillo she was kind of like the local teacher. She played, at that time, it was the Ventura County Symphony. And
Mhm.
she took me, as far as she could. And I kind of at a certain point needed to study in LA because I needed to be like in a big pond with,
Mhm. Mhm.
just the competitive nature of being in a big metropolitan city. So when I was 16, I started attending the Colburn School of Performing Arts and taking lessons through there. And I kind of had like this, it was a little scary for me because I grew up in a small town and I wasn't really wanting to attend college right away. I wanted to go to junior college. And I
Mhm.
still thank my teacher because she said, no, you're going to USC, you fill out your application. I've already got it worked out for you. And it was kind of like, she just told me I was going to do it and I did it. And I'm glad that
Great.
she pushed me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So after you attend USC, or maybe even during your attendance at USC, when do you start to formulate kind of like the music career?
Well, I think my cousin had a band. He started learning to play guitar, and he invited me to play with his group. So I remember just feeling like it was really fun and I could be free. And I started kind of going in that direction of wanting to learn to improvise
Mhm.
and solo and just play different styles of music. And but at the same time, I was getting my degree in classical music. So I feel like had there been a different option, I might, like, now USC has like jazz. You can study jazz as a violinist or popular music. There's different things you can do that, I feel like that would have been right thing for me. But I'm really grateful for the strong the technique that I got from that program. So
So I know you've done work with film and television. Specifically, you did something with the Disney Pixar movie Coco. Can you share a little bit about what you did and how that came about?
sure. I have history. So when I got out of college, I started playing with the Mariachi Divas, and they went on to win 2 Grammys. And at that time, they were kind of a fusion of mariachi music, but they had a lot of musicians that, like, half of the group we were salsa musicians. We did like Cuban and more improv, and so it was a really fun group where we had a lady who played the timbales. It was an all-female multicultural group, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like the timbales are like drums, and we had, I was kind of like the improvising violinist, and But I also learned mariachi music, so I kind of like started playing with some other mariachi groups, and I felt like that was really valuable to, when Coco came along, the composer asked me, she said she needed somebody who was classically trained strong player, but who could read music, but also who could improvise and who had a background in mariachi.
Mhm.
So somehow, luckily, I ended up being the one that was picked for this. And um, when I showed up, it was, I hadn't done a lot of major motion picture recording at that time. And I had done a lot of like playing on The Voice and American Idol, a lot of TV shows. I had played on the Grammys and things like that. But as far as being like at Warner Brothers Studios with like a large orchestra, I was asked to basically play the solo part. And then at the end, improvise a little bit upon what was written and
Mhm.
add like little embellishments, and just kind of like she wanted somebody who knew the swing of how mariachi should be played.
Mhm.
But she her name is Jermaine Franco, and she's such an amazing composer, and I'm just so in awe of everything she's done. She's the first Latina to I think, if I think I recall reading that she's the first Latina to score like a major motion picture of that
Wow.
magnitude.
Mhm.
And she's just so talented, and she was really nice to, she kind of at one point said, oh, we're working moms in the trenches, and we got to help each other out. And I'm
Oh, I love
just,
that.
yeah, I'm just so proud of like everything that she's done and how gifted she is, and grateful that she gave me the chance, because she also asked me to record in the orchestra on some of the other numbers. And she kind of told me, I want this to go well for you, because if it goes well, they'll call you for the rest of the movie. So she
Right.
basically didn't have the authority to, because she was just doing those particular songs. She wasn't actually the composer for that movie. It was Michael Giacchino. And then, so sure enough, it went well, and they called me for the rest of the movie. I remember I was in Hawaii on vacation. I
Mhm.
was going to be in Hawaii, and I got the email, and it was like a 5-day solid, at Warner Brothers to finish the movie. So I was really excited about it. And
Mhm.
I cut my trip short, and my husband, my daughter stayed in Hawaii. He's like, no, you have to go, you have to do this, this is a
Right.
big opportunity. So I went home and I recorded, and it was really, kind of just like one of those. I remember my stand partner, before I went up to take the solo, they had me recording some of the songs with the orchestra. And
Mhm.
he said, there's moments in life where things happen, and sometimes you don't realize like how cool or life-changing or amazing they are
Right.
until
Right.
afterward. He's like, this is one of those moments. So you take that time when you're up there soloing,
Mhm.
and you just relish in it and you enjoy it, because this is one of those moments. And I
Mhm.
always remember being like really grateful, because I was kind of nervous. I had to stand up in front of like 100-piece orchestra
Right.
and
Right.
solo, and I just remember being like really stressed out about it. But
Mhm.
luckily it went well, and I had some friends in the orchestra that I knew that were really kind, and like wrote to me after, and they're like, you did a really good job, that was great. So I
Mhm.
thought that was really nice of them. Jermaine Franco, she composed the music for Encanto, so she invited me for that
Oh.
as well. And the contractors that were on those sessions started calling me for other movies. So it's slowly but surely.
That's amazing. There's so many things I like about that story. Just like the mother helping mother, like working mother, like that whole part, having someone to remind you to kind of like ground yourself in the moment and take it all in. And then just the idea that like showing up for one thing, no matter how frightening or huge it may seem, like one thing turns into another thing, and like before you know it, you kind of have this career or life or like this thing that's just growing and you're evolving. It's just, that's a great story. That's
Yeah,
a,
and I feel like it's kind of, you you know, come later in life for me, as far as
Mhm.
like the film. recording. But, you know, I'm very grateful, you know, and things do come in and like, oh, and, you know, yay, another movie, you know,
Right.
and it's always really exciting, you know.
Mhm. And you know, sometimes I think as I continue to get older, um, I think back to things that I wanted that have now happened, but I wanted them early on, where I'm like, you know what? This is like the perfect timing for me to have these things. Like that probably would have been maybe too soon. I might have been overwhelmed, but it's just, I like this point in life. Like perhaps we're the same age, I don't know, but just like as I get older, I feel like just timing is everything and it's perfect. And so it's very
Yeah,
cool.
I definitely feel like the way things were supposed to happen. I mean, it happened
Mhm.
exactly like I wouldn't change anything because I had the chance to, I toured with my cousin's band and I learned a lot about like performing and
Mhm.
improvising and different, you know, we spent time in Veracruz learning about Mexican music, about
Mhm.
jarocho music. And, you know,
Mhm.
those experiences, those were life-changing, the experiences. And it was, you know, I played with salsa bands around LA and kind of learned how to groove and play that style. And I really
Mhm.
enjoyed learning. I mean, I did a little bit of East Indian music. I wasn't that good at it. I realized that's like a whole other lifetime. But, you know, just the fact that I got to try so many different styles and, you know, it was nice to have those experiences and to be able to travel the world. And, you know, before I had my daughter, it was
Right.
really nice, you know.
So speaking of touring, what would you say was the most important or useful thing you learned as a touring artist that you either still apply in other areas, or just overall just for life? What was it about touring? What did you learn from touring?
Um, well, I mean, I feel like I always think back to this one moment where I was touring with my cousin's band, and his
Mhm.
wife is the lead singer. They're called Quetzal, and they've gone on to win a Grammy also. And I feel like, you know, I think about this moment when we were just starting out and it was our first tour and we were young and, you know, the whole world was like, um, it was just the world was our oyster. And it's easy to become jaded as a musician when you start doing this and that and you just forget about, you know, to be grateful for the work that you have and think, you know. And we were lugging, or we didn't have, you know, we had to drive our own van and carry our own equipment. And I was lugging like a suitcase and the violin and my amplifier, and we had all this stuff, and we were walking, like we couldn't even afford a cab, so we were walking like, you know, 6 city blocks to our gig. And she had her percussion and her little, you know, guitar, and we were like carrying all this stuff. And I remember she said, "Yay, Rocio, we're on our way to work. Isn't this really cool? Like this is our job. Isn't this exciting?" And I
Right,
just remember thinking, yeah, this is really cool. We're so lucky. You know, we were,
right,
I mean, I
right.
think I think we were maybe like 22. Like I was fresh out of college, and just that feeling of like just kind of everything was new and fresh and
Mhm.
exciting. And I think back to that, and I still think like, you know, I need to be grateful for the work that I'm getting and not become jaded, and just remember like that's, you know, the newness and the freshness of like, you know, wanting to be a musician and
Right.
not complaining about, oh, you know, we had to like practice for this many hours and they made us do this and that, you know, just kind of like I remember that, and I remind myself, don't complain, you know.
Right,
You're
right,
lucky to be
right.
doing this.
Absolutely. And so with being a recording artist, because you did record an album
Yeah.
in 2011,
Mhm.
right? So talk to me a little bit about just the recording artist aspect of your career.
I feel like that was kind of a time I was having problems with my neck. I have a double herniation, and I just was kind of in and out of physical therapy and not able to practice a lot. And um, I was a little starting to get kind of depressed and like, oh, I think maybe I need to take up another career.
Mhm.
Um, and my arm would shake. Like I couldn't I didn't have the strength to play very much. And
Mhm.
I thank my husband for that time period, because he kind of was like, well, you got to keep doing something to keep yourself busy. And so he helped me set up a recording studio at the house. And
Mhm.
um, he said, you have these songs that you always wanted to record. Why don't you start working on, making an album?
Mhm.
So there were a lot of obstacles in the way. Like I ended up getting sick and I had asthma and I was trying to record with asthma, and it was just like, but it was the learning process of learning to, okay, I can work with pain in my arm, and it's going to get better. And I started practicing more guitar and I recorded guitar on it, and just kind of chugging along and
Mhm.
not giving up, I think, was the lesson to be learned from that. And proving to myself that I could finish something. And because it wasn't, I don't think, like at that time, now it's like, oh, I got it. I have a studio, you want to record, but I had to learn how to use Pro Tools. I had to,
Right, right.
learn how to set it, like everything. I traded hours with people where I said, okay, I'll record for you. I won't charge you, but you come and help me, give me Pro
Mhm.
Tool lessons. Okay, I'll do these tracks for you. And I had somebody come and help me set up my studio, like, oh, you have to put this microphone in this place and this microphone in this place. You need sound panels here. And luckily, a lot of people were willing to barter with me, so that I was
Mhm.
able to, learn and figure it all out. And
Mhm.
so I, finished the album and felt, I realized, that's a lot of work to promote an album. And I
Mhm.
would like to do that in the future, keep recording. But one good thing that came out of it, I think it was just kind of like the excitement of like, oh, my album here, and and
Right.
just kind of like listen to my album, I recorded this, and it kind of actually ended up helping me get more work. So
Mhm.
I was coming out of physical therapy, getting stronger, starting to train and practice again. And
Mhm.
then I started getting called for The Voice and American Idol, and referred for this and that. And it was kind of like my career started to take off again as a violinist as a result of that album.
So, and did that happen because the album got in the hands of someone that heard it, or how did tell me about how that came about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just kind of like I was giving it to friends, and oh, you rearrange these strings, and oh, I didn't know you played viola, and
Mhm.
this and that. And so then one of my friends, they were looking for a viola player, Latin, or somebody, they
Mhm.
still wanted an urban kind of, I don't know, something about the,
Yeah, I know
and
what you
so
mean.
yeah, and he said, this is my friend, she plays the viola. And I think I was fresh in his mind because I had just given him my CD, and then he referred me, and things like that would happen. It was kind of little things that people would think of me because I had just given them my album, and they liked the sound of the strings, and that realized I had other talents that they didn't know that I had.
Mhm. So one of the kind of through lines from your story that I'm hearing is that you one always had people kind of like encouraging you. If it was your mother saying you're going to play the violin, or your instructor saying you're going to go to Colburn, or you're going to go to USC, or even your husband, so sweet, just saying, you got to keep busy and helping you set up the
Mhm.
studio. That's so important to have those people in your life.
Mhm.
What would you say for a young musician, or not, I won't even say young, I'll say new musician, because age really, I mean, you could be starting at whatever age, um, is like the one thing or maybe two things that you feel are like just important to help yourself kind of keep going?
Um, I mean, I think it's the same, anything in life, you know, if you really want it, you just don't give up, you know, because I've certainly had several obstacles where it just would be like, okay, you're
Right,
not going to
right.
play anymore. And I remember going to like my acupuncture, and at one point I cried and she hugged me and she says, you know, we're going to get you through this, you know. And I
Mhm.
think it's just like, if you have a passion for something and you just decide that you want it, you know, there's always, you know, I mean, within reason, you just keep trying, and you know, you'll figure out a way
Mhm.
to make it happen if it fulfills your soul. And
Right.
so, you know, it
Mhm.
was kind of like, I always knew I wanted to be a musician. It just something I love to do. And I have students that ask me, I mean, I'm thinking of going into music, you know, what do you think? And I say, well, if you're asking me, then probably not, you know. But if you know it's what you want to do, then yes, do it and stick to it and don't give up, you know. And I've had some students that kind of like, you know, they really, I could tell they have a passion for it. And I'm always like encouraging them, like, come on, don't give up. You can do this, you know, if you really want it, you can do it. You can make it happen, you know. And I've kind of followed them even through college and beyond college, and I'm trying to get them gigs and
Right.
help them get, you know, teaching jobs and pass things along to them, because I want to see them succeed. And, you know, hopefully I can, you know, the way people have helped me, hopefully I
Right.
can
You can
be
give that
that
to
way
someone else.
with other
Mhm.
aspiring musicians.
That's awesome. And isn't that what it's all about? Like, we all need each other in some
Mhm.
capacity.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this question because, like I told you, I played the violin. Tell me what you um, enjoy most or love about playing the violin.
Um, I I really enjoy the communication with other people. You know, the pandemic was a little hard, and you know, I did a lot of remote recording, and it was nice because it's just something about making music that makes it's therapeutic for me and kind of
Mhm.
calms me and relaxes me. But now it's been nice that we're getting out and playing. You know, sometimes you have these moments of connection with people where you know, you have a really good gig, and it almost feels like you're part of like a soccer team that like won the game, you know, after a
Right.
concert, and you just feel so satisfied, like we did it, like we all pulled together at the
Right.
same time, and we you know,
Right.
we won the trophy. So it's just that feeling of like connecting with somebody on a deeper level, and
Mhm.
you know, feeling like you can accomplish things together.
A really good question I heard recently asked to someone else was, what question would you like to be asked about your craft that maybe you don't get asked very often? Did you have any ideas or?
I mean, I've not necessarily. I feel like one thing that I would like to say is I notice how the dynamic is changing over, because I've been around for a while, and I really respect the fact that women are starting to, like, you know, you see women in leadership roles now, like that. And this was the first year at the Oscars orchestra. You know, I lucky enough to be able to play in the Oscars orchestra. And first year we had a female African American concert master, and I
Mhm.
was
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
wow, this is like, you know, we're making history, and this is
Mhm.
pretty exciting that I'm part of this group, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you know, you just start seeing women in more leadership roles like concert master, and you know,
Mhm.
where before it just it was a little different, you know. Even as far as composers, like, you know, I used to do some of the film scoring sessions a long time ago, and it
Mhm.
was mostly male. And now it's like, you see, it's like 50-50, and a lot of women composers, and they're out there, and they're, you know, really representing. You're like, wow, that is pretty amazing stuff that you guys are doing, you know. And it's just nice. You see like female jazz musicians that are like blowing people away. And I'm really pleased to see how the industry has changed in the last several decades.
That's awesome. And what a cool thing to actually be able to witness and to participate in the change. So yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like we got a lot accomplished or said during this time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.